we'll just start kneeling. So just sinking your sit bones back towards your heels. And then close down the eyes just for a few moments before we get going. And just become aware of your alignment. So just placing your hands on the tops of the thighs, soft bend in the elbows. And then softening the shoulders down away from the ears, but elongating out through the spine. And engaging the core muscles as well. And just find your breath. And just notice the pace, the rhythm. Perhaps you've been hurrying and it's just slightly shallower, slightly faster. So just consciously slowing down the breath. Just really smooth, deep inhales. And soft exhales. And then we're just going to work slowly into the neck. So keeping your eyes closed if you wish, and just tucking your chin in towards your chest. Feeling the back of the neck elongate. But still dropping the shoulders down away from the ears so that we're not hunching. And then moving the chin from side to side, so drawing like a smiley face with the chin. Gently working into the neck. Just rolling the head one side to the other, just in time with your breath, so sticking with those really nice slow inhales, slow exhales. And then coming back to center, take an inhale as you take the head all the way back, stretching out the front of the neck. And then dropping the hands behind you, interlace the fingers and squeezing the shoulders together. Open up the eyes if that feels better. And then exhale to release, shaking out the fingers. And then taking some rolls with the shoulders. So just dropping the fingertips by your sides. Rolling the shoulders forwards, up and back. And then the other way. And then coming back to center, we're going to walk our left fingertips out towards the side of the mat. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, drop your right ear towards that right shoulder. So finding a stretch down the left-hand side of the neck. Inhale back to center, and exhale, taking it the other side, and dropping the right fingertips away from you. Inhaling here, exhaling back to center, and then we're going to come all the way up onto our knees. Maybe just pat out the feet, and it can feel a bit funny if they've been squished down. And then we'll take our left leg, extending the left leg out to the side, turning those left toes in, and just finding a stretch down that left-hand side. We're going to inhale, sweeping that left arm up. Exhale as you drop those right fingertips down, finding that lovely stretch down the left side of the body, dropping the left shoulder so you've got space between the left shoulder and the left ear. Inhale to release, exhale, drop that left hand down the left leg, sweeping the right arm up over. You're just taking it as far as feels okay for you. As I said at the start, I'm feeling really stiff, so I'm not going to take it too far, but just allowing gravity to take hold. Breathing into it, just allowing the muscles to lengthen naturally. Inhale and exhale, taking it over to the other side again. This time perhaps dropping further onto the palm of that right hand, maybe even taking a bend there in the elbow. I love this stretch. Inhale and exhale, back again. Creeping those fingertips down. Making sure you're rotating that torso up towards the ceiling, so really opening out the chest. Taking the gaze up. Opening the side of the body, but also the front of the body. Inhale, back up to center, sweeping both hands up. And then we exhale, we're going to fold forwards, creeping the fingertips away from us, dropping the head down. And opening up the shoulders here. And again, finding that stretch on the inside of that left leg. Find the breath here, sinking further into the pose on the exhale, maybe even taking the forearms down onto the floor. If that's feeling restorative, or perhaps even coming up onto the fingertips and working further into the shoulders. So just taking any options here, or maybe exploring between the two. And just enjoying the slow breaths here. Really deep inhale. Really relaxing deep exhale. One last inhale and exhale. Walk the hands towards you, really slowly, gently coming out of it, coming all the way back up. And we'll release that left knee back in. So we're coming up into that kneeling position before we go the other side. So extending the right leg away from you, or whichever leg you chose to do. And turning those right toes in. We're going to inhale, sweeping that left right arm up this time. Exhale, dropping down onto that left hand. And just holding it here just to start with. So coming up onto those fingertips of the left hand. Just stretching out that right side of the body. Maybe turning the gaze up to face the ceiling. Maybe keeping it neutral if that feels a bit better. Just making sure you're not putting too much pressure on the neck. And we inhale, coming out of it, and exhale, dropping those right fingertips down that right leg. And finding a stretch down that left side. Taking care not to go too deep, not too far into it, not overstretching, just to start with. And just notice your breath here, notice any restriction that you feel, any tightness in the chest. And just noticing what you can do. Just to soften into it, maybe dropping the shoulders. And we'll inhale, exhale, drop that left hand down again. Perhaps you can take the palm all the way down onto the mat. Perhaps you want to stay further up. Just noticing where feels good for you and just exploring where you need to hold the gaze. So perhaps it's up towards the ceiling. Or perhaps that's too much for the neck. So just doing what feels good for you. And we inhale to come up, exhale, drop those right fingertips down that right leg again. And perhaps you can take that left arm just a tiny bit further over towards that left ear. Taking the gaze up, stretching out that left side, opening up the chest. Counteracting all that desk work. And we inhale, exhale to come out of it. And we're going to inhale, sweep both hands up above the head this time. Take the gaze up and we exhale, folding over, creeping the hands away from us. So just noticing what you need to do here, just perhaps settling here just for a couple of breaths before either coming up onto those fingertips, dropping the head, working into those shoulders, or perhaps taking it down onto the forearms. Just exploring here. And just noticing where you're feeling the stretch. And where you're feeling the release as well. And sticking with the breath. And softening into the posture. One last deep inhale. One last exhale. And inhale as we walk our hands back towards us. Gently coming up, bringing that right knee back in. And we're going to drop onto our hands. So coming into our tabletop position and just swinging the hips out from side to side here. Just releasing any tension here, perhaps even just bashing the tops of the feet into the mat, finding some movement. And we're going to circle the hips to start with. So just circling, choose any direction. So I'm going over to the right and coming forwards. And either just keeping those circles nice and small, especially if you've got any knee issues. Susan here, if you want to put your knees onto a cushion or one knee onto the cushion, that might be useful if you're feeling any pain. And then going the other way, so whichever side you went on first, just rotating the hips in the other direction. Maybe bending into the elbows. Again, just being explorative. And then gently, slowly coming back to center and finding our alignment. So making sure that the knees are underneath the hips and that the hands are underneath the shoulders. Often you need to walk them further in than you think and have the hands actually further out than you think. Making sure that your toes are tracking towards the backs of the mat so that your feet aren't rolling either outwards or inwards, and that you engage the core. So doing this by just tucking the tailbone ever so slightly. That automatically switches on those abdominals. I'm going to take some cat-cows here in time with our own breath. So just concentrating on the breath, initiating the movement. So as we inhale, dropping the belly, taking the gaze up, stretching out the front of the chest. And then as we exhale, pushing into the heels of the hands, chin to chest, really arching the spine, space between those shoulders. Inhale to reverse and just taking the movement in time with your own breath. Maybe even holding the posture at the top of the inhale or the bottom of the exhale. Just listening to what your body needs and what movement you need to make to respond. And then we come back to center, taking an inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to sink our sit bones back towards our heels, taking an extended child's pose, but keeping your knees as wide as your hips. So a kind of narrow child's pose. Dropping the head down onto the mat, taking the head out from side to side, releasing any tension there in the neck. And just take this opportunity just to tune in with that breath again. Finding some stillness. And connect with your surroundings. And feel the release in this posture. Take a really deep inhale, and then as you exhale, we're going to come up back onto our hands and knees and walk the hands forwards. And slowly dropping the hips down. Extending through the hands, pushing the feet into the floor, squeezing the shoulders together, gaze forwards. Engage the glutes so you protect that lower back. Maybe take the gaze up towards the ceiling if that feels good. Inhale here and exhale. Keeping the hands where they are, we're going to sink our hips back into that child's pose position. So just releasing again through the back, but extending those hands, extending those fingertips towards the top of the mat. Inhale here and exhale, coming up through that tabletop position and then dropping the hips back down again. Inhale here and exhale back to the child's pose. So just warming up the lower back here. Inhaling here, exhaling, coming forwards, dropping the hips back down. Squeezing the shoulders, taking the gaze up. Inhale here, exhale, dropping the hips back. One last time. Inhale in child's pose, exhale, coming forwards, dropping the hips down. Take the gaze up. Inhale here, exhale. This time we're going to tuck the toes under and come into a plank here. So pushing into the heels, lifting the hips, taking the gaze down towards the mat, coming into our plank. Deep inhale here, exhale, drop to the knees, release the feet, bend the elbows, lowering all the way down to the mat. And we're going to inhale into our baby cobra. So squeezing those elbows, taking the gaze up, lifting the chest, hands underneath the shoulders. Inhale here, exhale, drop the forehead down towards the mat. And then this time on the inhale, we're going to hover the hands. So take the gaze, lift the chest. If that's too much, keep the hands engaged, keep yourself supported. Inhale here, exhale, drop the hands. And we're going to push ourselves all the way back into our child's pose. Just pausing here just for a couple of breaths, taking the pressure off the lower back. Deep inhale. And as we exhale, coming up into our tabletop again, walking the hands forwards a pace. This time tucking the toes under, and we're going to send our hips all the way up into our first downward dog. So just giving yourself some space here, pedaling out the feet. Just adjusting where you need to adjust, maybe checking the width of your hands, maybe walking the hands further away from each other so you give more space for your shoulders. And allowing yourself just to push that torso further towards those thighs, keeping the gaze towards the knees or between the thighs so that you're easing off the neck. And find that breath, really slow inhales and slow exhales. One last inhale. And then as we exhale, we're going to walk our hands towards our feet. So standing into a forward fold at the back of the mat. Take opposite elbows. And then we're just going to ragdoll it out here. So just swinging from side to side. Maybe taking the weight from the balls of your feet to the heels. Making sure there's no tension in the neck. So doing some yeses and nos. And just allowing those elbows, allowing the weight of your head and gravity just to pull gently towards the mat. Release the elbows and we'll inhale to a flat back. So hands on the shins, gaze forward, squeeze the shoulders. Exhale, fold. And this time, if you can, taking hold of your, I was going to say thumbs, I mean big toe with your peace fingers and bending through the knees, just pulling the crown of your head down towards the mat, finding Some really nice length in the lower back and in the middle back here. Really bending into the knees, really pulling the head down, and then resting your ribs, resting your belly onto your thighs. So you're supported. And making sure you're not holding any tension in your shoulders as well. So really trying to actually relax the shoulders as you pull the head down towards the mat. And if you'd like to experiment with straightening through the legs, maybe one leg, maybe the other. Really stretching out the backs of the legs here, as well as the lower back. And creating space on that inhale and then sinking into that space on the exhale. And then releasing the fingers around the big toes. Inhale back to that flat back. So squeeze the shoulders, gaze forward. Release any tension there in the neck. Exhale, fold, bend through the knees. And we're going to walk ourselves forwards into plank again. Inhaling here, exhaling. We're going to drop our heels to the left as we take our right arm up towards the ceiling, coming into a side plank. And really pushing through that left hand and seeing if you can really push those hips up to the ceiling. So we're really activating the sides of the body. Inhale here, exhale, float that right hand down. Take another inhale, and this time as you exhale, turn the heels to the left and we'll come into the side plank on the opposite side. And again, here, really concentrating on lifting through the hips. So we're activating the sides of the body, those oblique muscles, using your knee if you need to, but really lifting through the hips, stretching out the sides. Inhale here, exhale, float that left hand down. Take another inhale. And then as we exhale, we'll drop to the knees, release the feet, lower all the way down. Inhale, pushing through the hands, this time coming all the way up into our full cobra. Squeezing the shoulders. Take the gaze up, stretch out the front of the neck. And exhale, tuck the toes under. And push the hips, sending all the way up into that downward dog. Again, making any adjustments that you need to make. The width of your feet, the width of your hands. Maybe bending into the knees so you can really push into the shoulders. And we're going to inhale the right leg up, coming into our three-legged dog. Right toes pointing down towards the mat so you can really push that left heel and really feel the left leg, the back of that left leg switch on. Try to keep those hips square. Try to push equally between the hands. Inhale here, exhale, step that right foot between the hands. Drop the back knee, release the back feet, and we'll inhale, sweeping those hands all the way up into that low lunge. And we inhale to push through that right foot, tracking the hips back. And then exhale, really sink into the hips. So we're really stretching through that left hip flexor. So we inhale to come back up. And exhale, drop the hips. Really sinking into that hip flexor. One more time, inhale, coming up. Exhale, really sinking. Take the gaze up. Exhale, float the hands forward, frame that front foot. Take an inhale, and then as you exhale, you're going to straighten through that front leg. Take those toes back towards the face. Come up onto the fingertips. Take the gaze forward. And we find our half splits. You might want to adjust here. Actually, your knee should be underneath your hips. So you might need to take that left knee back. You might need a bend in that right leg. That's absolutely fine. But what we're just looking for is a stretch down the back of that leg. Deep inhale here. Exhale, bend through that right leg. And this time, walk that right foot out towards the outside edge of the mat. I'm going to come into our lizard. And again, you might want to adjust here, either tracking that knee slightly forwards, just whatever is most comfortable for you. We inhale up onto the fingertips, and then we exhale, coming down onto the hands, bending through the elbows, and finding a nice hip stretch for that right hip and the left hip flexor. And just having a play here. So you might want to come down all the way onto your forearms. That might not be accessible, but you might want to tuck those left toes under and float that left knee. Just have a play. Maybe you need to come out of it. Maybe you can just come up onto your hands, but keep that left knee lifted. Just see what's working for you, what you need, what feels good. And find the breath. So dropping the head down. And again, just noticing where you're holding tension. And notice where you need to release, what muscles you need to switch on and what muscles you need to switch off. And then preparing, inhaling, coming all the way up onto both hands. And taking your way into your left hand as you push your right knee away from you, coming onto the outside edge of that right foot. So just really carefully push that right knee away. That's it, you can see. Stretching further into that hip. And if you feel like more of a stretch, bring that knee in slightly and then take that left foot towards your glute and then reach around with that right hand and take hold of the left foot. If you're feeling like a stretch, if not, just stay where you are, no obligation. Inhaling here, exhaling, releasing wherever you are. So placing both hands on the inside of that right foot. We're going to come up onto that left foot. So bring that left knee up. And then we're going to walk that right foot in towards the center of the mat again, taking that right hand on the outside of the right foot. So framing that front foot. That's what I'm trying to say. And we're going to inhale, sweeping both hands up this time into a high lunge, pushing into that back foot, really stretching the back leg. And then as we exhale, interlace the hands behind us. Inhale to squeeze the hands together, squeezing the shoulders together, stretch out the front of the chest. Inhale, sweeping those hands up again. Exhale, framing that front foot. We're going to step back into our plank here. Taking a deep inhale and then exhale, come through that vinyasa. So either knees, chin, chest, or take a full one if you've got it in you. Into your cobra or your upward dog. And exhale. Coming back into that downward dog. And again, pedaling out through the feet as you need to. One leg may feel slightly longer than the other, having really stretched out that right leg. And just settling here just for a couple of breaths before we go the other side. In fact, before we go the other side, we'll just do another stretch. So take an inhale. And as you exhale, we're going to walk our hands just towards us by a couple of paces and then take our feet out as wide as the mat. So we're in a shorter but wider dog. And we're going to inhale here. And as we exhale, see if we can take our left hand towards our right ankle. finding a stretch. Maybe taking the torso underneath the space between the right arm and the right leg. Inhale here, exhale, release, placing that left hand back down again. And we'll go the other side, so take an inhale and exhale, take the right hand on the outside of that left ankle. Filling your torso through, finding a lovely stretch down the back of that left leg. Gazing underneath that left armpit. Keep with the breath. Deep inhale, exhale to release. And walk the hands forward. And take the feet in so that they're hip width apart again. And we'll go the other side. So we'll inhale, sweep that left leg up. Coming into our three-legged dog on this left side, really pushing into that right heel, dropping that right heel down. So again, you can feel a more intense stretch down the back of that right leg. Inhale here, exhale, step the left foot between your hands, drop the right knee, release the right toes, and we inhale, sweep all the way up into our low lunge on this left side. So we'll inhale to track the hips back and lift them up, and exhale, sinking those hips forward. Inhale to lift up and back. Exhale, sink them forward. Inhale, up and back. Exhale, sink the hips forward, really stretching out that hip flexor, keeping the hips square. Inhale here, exhale, float those hands down, framing that front foot. Inhale here and exhale, walk your fingertips towards you, straightening through that front leg, flexing the toes back towards your face. And again, maybe moving that right knee back if you need to, if you need a bit more space. And inhale, coming up onto those fingertips, take the gaze forward. Maybe even move the hips just slowly from side to side, just finding more space here. Finding that stretch. Deep inhale and exhale, walking those hands forward. And then finding our lizard, so heel toeing that left foot towards the outside edge of the mat. And then placing your hands on the inside of that left foot. And again, finding any position here or any adjustments that feel good for you. Might be different on this side, so maybe tuck those toes under of the right foot, lift that right knee, maybe come on to your elbows. Maybe that's not right, maybe you just need to stay here. Maybe explore with pushing that left knee away, coming onto the knife edge of that foot. Maybe even just coming forwards and just rocking from side to side, seeing if you can work your way into it, finding more space, finding more movement. And then just finding some stillness. And again, just noticing on this side which muscles you need to relax, which muscles you need to soften. See if you can even identify where you're tensing and where you need to release. Notice your shoulders. Notice your hips. And then inhaling, coming back up onto your hands. And either pausing here, or if you'd like to, pushing your way into that right hand and then pushing that left knee away with that left hand, coming onto the knife edge of that left foot. This can feel really strange. So if it feels too weird or there's any pain, just come out of it. It just opens up the hips nicely. And for anyone needing a bit more of a stretch, flexing that right heel towards the right glute, sweeping that left hand round. Oh, I'm struggling on this side. Grabbing those toes if you can and bringing it in towards you. This can either be delightful or horrible, depending on what you've done, how you feel. And then really softening through that left shoulder. Finding the stretch, not only in that right quad, but also into that left shoulder, into that left hand. Inhaling here, exhaling, release the foot, sweep that left hand down, gently bringing in that left knee, and then heel toeing that left foot into the center of your mat, framing that foot with the left hand, so your foot's back into the center. Inhaling here, exhaling, tucking those right toes under, lifting the knee, and we're going to inhale, sweeping those hands all the way up into that high lunge, like we did on the opposite side, dropping the shoulders, taking the gaze up. Inhaling here, exhaling, sweeping the hands down, framing that front foot. We step ourselves back to plank. And just holding here in plank for a bit, stretching out those feet, so really pushing into the heels, pushing into the shoulders, tucking the tailbone. Deep inhale here and exhale through a vinyasa of your choice. Inhale to upward dog and exhale, tucking the toes under, sending the hips high into our downward dog. And finding the breath and finding some stillness, noticing how your legs are feeling. Deep inhale here, and as we exhale, we're going to drop to the knees, cross the ankles, and sit ourselves back. And then we're going to come into a hip stretch, but on the outsides of our hips. So we've done quite a few hip stretches. So what we're going to do is, quite hard to explain not in person, but we're going to stack our knees on top of each other. So bending through the right knee, the right leg. So you're coming onto that left sitting bone. And we're going to cross that left knee on top of the right, walking the hands forward and then sinking our sitting bones between the feet. And this is where, not to worry if your knees don't stack on top of each other or you feel that one knee is loads higher than the other, just don't worry, just try to get to where you can manage. But what we're aiming for is a stretch on the outside of the hips. You should be feeling it somewhere on the outside of the hips. And then just spending some time grounding through the sitting bones here, dropping the shoulders down away from the ears, growing out through the crown of the head. And just allowing yourself to settle here. And hopefully noticing the hips stretching out, the hips easing off. And we're going to engage the arms. So either bringing the arms up, taking hold of opposite elbows, or dropping the right hand down the middle of your back and sweeping the left hand round. So you're taking hold of your fingertips behind your back. Most people can do one side and not the other. We will do the other side. Or if that's too much, or it doesn't reach, maybe just even taking one hand behind and the other, not taking hold, or just keeping hold of opposite elbows. My watch is in the way. We're going to inhale here and then exhale. See if we can fold forwards gently. And just go as far as you can, as far as your hips allow. And inhale, coming all the way up. Releasing the hands. Inhale, sweeping the hands up, palms to touch. And then exhale, dropping the fingertips down this time. And then creeping the fingertips away from you. Taking your chest towards your knees. Folding into the hips. And just noticing that deeper stretch on the outside of the hips here. Find that breath. Maybe even just take some motion from side to side. Just seeing if you can creep those fingertips slightly further forwards. If it's too much, ease off. It's going to be horrible. And inhale, creeping the fingertips towards you. Coming back up, and we'll swap. And we'll go the other side. So whichever leg you had underneath, take it on top this time. So this time I was on the left, so left leg below. Take the right leg over. Come onto your hands, making sure you're crossing that right knee over the left before sinking the sit bones back between the feet. And this time just holding your foot, so you'll find your opposite foot to hand. And maybe just massaging the underside of your foot, the soles of your feet. And again, elongating through the spine, growing out through the crown of the head. Just allowing those hips just to soften. Before inhaling, finding opposite elbows. And this time, dropping your left hand down your back and seeing if you can sweep the right round, interlacing those fingers. And really engaging the core so you can really grow out through the crown of the head, not stooping. Find that breath, take an inhale and exhale. Folding gently forwards, working further into the hips, into the shoulders. This is my harder side, got to be careful. Inhale as we come up, releasing the hands, maybe giving them a shake before we inhale, sweep all the way up. And exhale, folding forwards, creeping those fingertips towards the opposite wall, away from you. And again, just notice differences on this side. You might find it easier. You might find it slightly more challenging. And just using the breath just to drop into it or pull away. Just a few breaths here. Just give yourself some time. Just to release, just to stretch out the exterior hip muscles. And inhale, climbing those fingertips towards you all the way up, releasing the feet. And we're going to take a bend in the knees, take our hands behind us, and then windscreen wiper through the knees. So dropping them to one side, then to the other, just releasing through those hips. Nice. And then climbing, walking your hands back towards you. And you're going to have to adjust here, but still keeping a bend in the knees. In fact, I'll go this way so you can see me. We're going to take the left foot, crossing it over the right knee. Really stretching out that hip. And again, here you might need to play, but you can walk your hands towards you and walk that right foot towards you. And just noticing where you feel that stretch. So we're trying to stretch out that left hip. So really pushing that left knee away. And then releasing, dropping that left foot down. Again, windscreen wipering out the knees. And we go the other side. So again, walking your hands maybe further towards you and crossing that right foot over the left knee. Really flexing through the foot so you're protecting the knee. And again, just adjusting as you need to, just anywhere where you can feel a stretch in the outside of that right hip. Deep inhale here, exhale, release that right foot down. And then we'll make our way onto our backs, hugging both knees into the chest. Maybe rocking just from side to side. And then taking a happy baby. So shine the soles of the feet up towards the ceiling. Take hold of the outside edges of the feet, all the ankles, and again, just rock from side to side, massaging the lower back into the mat. And just noticing your stretched out, flexible hips. Deep inhale here, exhale, release the feet, bring the knees together, cactus the arms onto the floor, so bend in the elbows. And exhale, drop the knees over to the left, taking the gaze over to the right, so we've got a lovely passive twist to the spine. Just pausing here, just with a few breaths. And then inhaling the knees back through center, exhaling, dropping the knees to the right, gaze over towards the left. And then inhaling back through center. And then squeezing the knees into the chest, wrapping the forearms around the shins, maybe taking the nose towards the knees. Inhale here, and then exhale. We'll send our legs long, coming into our Shavasana, into our relaxation. Just for a minute or so. So taking our hands by our sides, lifting the palms to face the ceiling. And find that breath. And just noticing the release in this position, the effortlessness of it. And just softening every contact point into the mat. So softening through the elbows, the backs of the hands, the shoulders, and then the back. Backs of the legs. Backs of the heels. Just notice the soft rise and fall of the belly. Just connecting with that breath and with the surroundings again. In your own time, we'll take an inhale, take the hands up overhead, point through the toes, interlace the fingers, come into a nice pencil stretch. And then exhale, taking the backs of your knees with your hands. And we'll take some rock and rolls the length of the mat. And then coming up to seated, find a comfortable seat. So either cross-legged or sending the feet out in front of you. Coming into our Sukhasana, our comfortable seat, and just placing your hands onto the knees, palms facing down, lengthening out through the crown of the head, dropping the shoulders. And we'll just take a couple of cleansing breaths together. So deep inhale into the belly, up into the chest, pause at the top of the inhale. And then releasing, sighing it out through the mouth. One more. And hands to heart center. Namaste.